everyone. Welcome to this Mindfulness in Nature workshop. It's the 10th session of the Trellis Seminar Series 2022. For those of you who don't know us, Trellis is the charity that supports therapeutic gardening in Scotland. We provide information, training and good practice sharing, and we aim to promote the highest quality therapeutic gardening services and enable everyone to get the best out of them. Trellis also encourages gardening groups to share experiences, skills and resources through a network of over 480 gardening groups. Find links to all information and resources online from the Trellis homepage. So the aim of this particular seminar session is to inspire you to have a go at mindfulness activities with your clients. So the session is around 90 minutes in total and comprises a short presentation, a mandala making activity and a relaxation session. And it's followed by an opportunity to ask questions and have discussion. So please use the chat feature throughout the session to ask questions as they occur to you, and a member of the team will voice them to the presenter at the end. Or during the Q&A session, please use the reactions button at the bottom to raise your hand, and we'll ask you to unmute and voice the question yourself in the Q&A session. We have closed captions or live audio transcription available. If you'd like to turn on subtitles, please go to the bottom of your screen. There should be a little box that says CC, or it may be in the three dots in the More section. But if you click on either of those, it should allow you to show subtitles or enable your live audio transcription. So if you'd like to do that, please feel free. We're also going to give the opportunity to share photos in this session. After you've made your mandala, you may want to take a photograph of it. So if you take your photos and upload them to your laptop or the cloud or wherever you put them, and then use the chat to share your photos with us. And you can do that if you look at the chat box. There is a little thing that looks, to me it looks like a page with the corner folded over, but it's actually a browser, and if you click on that, it allows you to upload your photos or your photos to the chat. So that would be lovely if you want to share them with us. And then Lorna is going to give us a little slideshow later on in this session. So that was sharing photos. So lastly, feedback. So near the close of the session, we'll invite you to complete our survey through a link in the chat. And this is important to us as it informs our work and tailors what we can provide to you. So please, please complete it if you can. We really value it. If you missed the link in the chat, we are going to send out a follow-up email, so there'll be a chance to do it then as well. So without further ado, it's a real pleasure to welcome our workshop leader today, Deborah Becker. Deborah, I'm just going to spotlight you so people can see you. Deborah is an occupational therapist who has specialised in older adults' mental health and dementia over a 27-year career in the NHS. Recently, she's been a volunteer at a local hospice where she led a monthly therapeutic gardening group for her patients, their friends, family, carers and the bereaved. Deborah is currently a member of the ST4PC interest group. Since that, she's been involved in several new projects, one of which was providing psychological support for care home communities across Sussex during the early phase of the pandemic. And she provided a monthly virtual forum for activity workers on meaningful occupation and using nature-based activities and horticulture. She's currently working for the East Sussex Post-COVID Assessment and Support Service and has recently trained in health coaching. So we're delighted to catch you on a day off, Deborah. I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you. Thanks for that lovely introduction. Yeah, it's really strange listening to all of that, because as Joan knows, I did try to retire in October, November 20. It's still a work in progress, clearly. So But yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to be here with you. And I think all the things that we need to know about has been done. So I'll just start, if I may, and I'll ask Joan, Joan to put up the slides for me. Thank you. So we can go on to the next slide. Thank you, Joan.
Okay.
So that's great, thank you. So I completed the spring unit of the Trellis online seasonal gardening activities training programme in the spring of 2021. And one of the assignments required me to plan and reflect on an activity. Due to the pandemic, the group that I had been co-facilitating in a hospice setting had not been running for some months. And it was agreed that I could use a session which I had co-facilitated with another WI committee member and work colleague for our WI based at the hospice. The session was held in May during Mental Health Awareness Week. That year, the Mental Health Foundation focused on how nature can protect and support our mental health. The session offered a safe place for participants to talk about their mental well-being over the past year and to consider the impact of the lifting of government restrictions on both them as individuals and as a WI. After watching a short YouTube video produced by the National Federation WI, which was in support of the 2018 resolution Mental Health Matters, the attendees were invited to participate in a mindfulness nature-based activity. I felt very honoured when I was asked if I would consider presenting at this year's seminar series, and I hope that whatever setting and client group that you are currently working in and with, you will find something of interest in my short presentation, and that you will enjoy participating in the experiential session and guided imagery relaxation session that will follow. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Oops. Why won't it let me go? There we go.
So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness means paying attention on purpose, in the moment, and non-judgmentally. It is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. Professor Mark Williams, former director of the Oxford Mindfulness Centre, says that mindfulness means knowing directly what is going on inside and outside ourselves, moment by moment. It's easy to stop noticing the world around us. It's also easy to lose touch with the way our bodies are feeling and to end up living in our heads, caught up in our thoughts without stopping to notice how thoughts are driving our emotions and behaviour, he says. An important part of mindfulness is reconnecting with our bodies and the sensations they experience. This means waking up to the sights, sounds, smells and tastes of the present moment. That might be something as simple as the feel of a banister as we walk upstairs. It's about allowing ourselves to see the present moment clearly. And when we do that, it can positively change the way we see ourselves and our lives. Thank you. Next slide. So how can mindfulness help our mental well-being? Becoming more aware of the present moment can help us enjoy the world around us more and to understand ourselves better. Mindfulness also allows us to become more aware of the stream of thoughts and feelings that we experience and to see how we can become entangled in that stream in ways that are not helpful. Becoming more aware of the present moment can help us enjoy the world around us more and to understand ourselves better. When we become more aware of the present moment, we begin to experience afresh things that we have perhaps taken for granted. Mindfulness also allows us to become more aware of the stream of thoughts and feelings that we're experiencing, says Professor Williams, and to see how we can become entangled in that stream in ways that are not helpful. This lets us stand back from our thoughts and start to see the patterns gradually, We can train ourselves to notice when our thoughts are taking over and realise that thoughts are simply mental events that do not have to control us. Thank you. Next slide. So just thinking about adjusting to life-changing events. When faced with a life-changing event, be it physical, emotional or social, it can be extremely difficult to adjust to these changes. This could be increased levels of pain, reduced abilities to engage in physical activities, a loss of role, increased financial worries, fears about what the future holds, and many other issues. Spending time in nature is particularly beneficial and for many people easier than in other situations. Nature welcomes us into a world where we can experience simplicity, connectivity, relaxation, trust, thankfulness and happiness. Reminding yourself to take notice of your thoughts, feelings, body sensations and the world around you is the first step to mindfulness. Caring for a garden can be a great form of mindfulness meditation. By connecting with the earth and with the practice of gardening, you can cultivate a healthy mind and can feel calm and connected. Simply planting a seed with intention or touching soil can be transformative. Engaging in social and therapeutic horticulture activities is intrinsically a mindfulness activity. Thank you. So that's the end of my short presentation. And now I'm going to lead you in the Mandala Making activity. So trying something new can also help you notice the world in a new way and enable you to be more mindful. And as a member of the Social and Therapeutic Horticulture for Palliative Care Interest Group, I attended a workshop in April 2021 when I had the pleasure of listening to Dr. Olivia Chappell, Chair of Trustees of Horatio's Garden, speak. This was followed by an experiential session led by Horatio's head gardener, Imogen Jackson. It is with her kind permission that I'm able to use her handouts to enable me to share the Mandala Making session with you today. The word mandala itself means circle. They arose in Indian and Himalayan religious traditions as artistic ways of representing the spiritual universe. Modern mandalas can be used as a means of reducing stress, to connect deeply with oneself, and to appreciate forms of beauty in the natural world. Mandalas generally have one identifiable centre point from which emanates an array of symbols, shapes and forms. So I would now like to invite you to participate in an experiential session during which you will have the opportunity to create your own mandala. So if you're going to be participating in this, hopefully you have gathered some materials in advance and are ready to do that. So if you are going to participate, you will need to just make sure that you've got space in front of you. And this can be done indoors or outdoors. I think probably for most of us we're indoors today. And just thinking about the process that you've already gone through before you came to the session today, gathering your materials, going out into either your garden or a nearby nature place, be it a park or just a hedgerow, to gather your items. I hope that you will have taken time to notice and think about your experience of doing that, because that is all part of the experience. And using the colour charts that you were sent out before the session just helps you to focus, because it can be almost overwhelming. There is so much colour in the garden. It can actually help you look really intently at getting a colour match or as near to it. And it also invites us to turn a leaf over, because sometimes the colour is different on the other side. And when we're intent on finding that match, it makes us more inquisitive. So choose a peaceful place that you can either lay down a piece of paper or a piece of fabric, whichever you have chosen. I picked up, just before the start of the session, a scarf. Usually I use a piece of paper, but I just picked up a fabric scarf. And I thought how, depending on where you're working, that's something that perhaps you could find in charity shops, that kind of thing, or ask for donations, so that you have a collection of scarves that you can easily grab when you want to do a session. And then I'm inviting you to look at your materials and to choose one item to place down in the centre of your area of work, be that the paper or the fabric. Some people would like to choose black or white paper, and others may choose to use coloured fabric. And if I can just invite you to take a moment to try and clear your mind, perhaps take 2 or 3 gentle breaths. And just to say, do not rush into creating your mandala. There's no right or wrong way to create one. So feel free to express yourself. And it's important not to be analytical, but just to enjoy the process. So from your collection of items, whatever that is, place one item down in the centre of your work area that you're particularly attracted to. Pay attention to the beauty within it. It may have its own natural perfume. You might want to pay attention to that. And then, having placed it in the centre of your background, let the rest of your mandala unfold one step at a time, laying other items in circles around your first item. You may wish to make it symmetrical, but there is no right or wrong way, as I said. And quiet your mind and focus fully on the activity. I'm going to speak occasionally, but not very much, because I will also be making one here, and I don't want to interrupt your process. So we've got plenty of time to do this, so just enjoy. You don't have to use them if you've got flowers in there in its entirety. Some people might like to take individual petals and place those. And some of you may be finishing your mandala, others may still be working on it. So we'll have just a few more minutes to give you time to finish that and not to have to rush it. And for those that have finished, just take the opportunity to reflect on the process and how you felt doing that. We don't always have time to reflect on what something we've just done. We're sometimes just on to the next item. And just a reminder for those that have finished, if you want to take a photograph and upload that, we'd love to see what you've done. That's beautiful, thank you. It's always amazing how different they all are, and that just is your own creativity coming through. Is that something you can help with, Joan, that question? So if you were to choose on another occasion to do this outside, it can just be left in the garden, on a table, on grass, anywhere, and just allow nature and the wind to perhaps take it away. And that just reflects how transient those moments can be, and how we need to allow ourselves to enjoy every moment. So some people are uploading their photos, and I look forward to seeing all those at the end. And perhaps now, if you're beginning to finish, we can bring that part of the session to a close. And I really look forward to hearing your reflections a little bit later about that process. Oh, wow. It's amazing. Very detailed.
Oops.
So before we go on to sharing our thoughts about that process, we're now going to think about the relaxation session. So if you can put your mandala to one side and give yourself a bit of space to do that. I can't see other people very much, so if your video is on and you would like to turn that off, I would invite you to have the opportunity to do that. It's not always easy to do relaxation if you think somebody else is looking at you. So do please turn your cameras off if you've got them on and would like to, as a starting point. The relaxation that we're going to do today is what's called an active relaxation using colour. So if you can make yourself as comfortable as possible, hopefully you're in a space where you're not going to have any interruptions. If you want to dim the lights anyway, or pull a curtain, then please do so. And then if you would like to, I invite you to close your eyes, knowing that nobody is watching you. And we'll begin by becoming more aware of our breathing. Follow each breath in and out. Allow your breathing to follow its own natural rhythm. Gently and slow. Let your body slowly relax. We are going to think about some colours as you relax. Just listen to my voice and think about each colour as I speak. Allow your mind to imagine the colour all around you and let images associated with the colour come into your mind. Firstly, think about the colour yellow. See yellow all around you. The warmth of the yellow sun. A field of golden yellow sunflowers. The shady yellow of a hayloft. The pale yellow sand stretching along a Caribbean beach. Feel the warmth of yellow. Now the yellow deepens into brown. Brown surrounds you gently. The crisp brown of a wood in winter. The brown of chestnuts at the edge of a fire. The brown of supple leather in a stable. Feel the depth of brown. Now the brown changes into red. Let the rich, vibrant red surround you. Geraniums in a window box. The red embers of the coals. Red specks of poppies sprinkled in a field. Let the images flow into your mind. Feel the strength of red. Now the red fades into mauve. See the gentle mauve all around you. The heavy flowers on the lilac tree swaying in the breeze. Fragrant lavender along a garden path. Summer heather on rolling moors. Feel the gentleness of mauve surround you. Mauve then fades and deepens into blue. Let the blue take the place of mauve in your mind. The rough blue sea of the Cornish coast. Sky blue forget-me-nots. High blue Mediterranean skies. Feel the calm of blue surrounding you. Now allow green to slip into your mind. Concentrate on green all around. The green of spring turf on cliff tops. The damp green of misty hillsides. Cricket on a lazy village green. The green of new spring growth. Feel the freshness of green. Now take your mind back to the colour that soothed you the most. Stay with this colour. Let it fill your mind and drift away on the image it brings to mind. Relax for a few moments until you hear me speak again. Shortly, we are going to bring our session to an end. So in your own time, begin to move slowly away from your scene. Become aware of the feelings of peace which you are bringing back with you. And when you are ready, bring your attention back to the room in which you are sitting. Slowly open your eyes and gently stretch your arms and legs. So that brings me to the end of the short presentation, the experiential session, making the mandala, and finishing with the active relaxation. So I'm happy to take any questions now, but also really interested to hear any personal reflections, thoughts about the process of making the mandala and also the relaxation session.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Deborah. Have we got any questions? I think we're all just coming to after that. It's lovely, lovely and calming. I don't know if
Let me
any...
just show the photos just now, Jenny, if
That
I
would be,
can.
well, yes, do that, and that will give people time to bring themselves to and perhaps raise a hand or type into the chat.
Okay, can you see that one okay?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. I don't know who they belong to, so I'll just whiz through what I saved there. I've not had a chance to look at them myself, so gosh, completely different. We've only seen two and they're completely different. Wow.
That's nice.
Now I'm
Amazing.
intrigued. I
That's
really want
beautiful.
to ask questions. I'm assuming this is, oh, is that, to begin with, I thought that was a little hebe flower, so I thought, well, that's definitely not flowering in Scotland, but I think it must, is it heather? I think maybe that's
Like,
round the outside of that one. Oh, this is nice. Dried hydrangea petals, I think. Hydrangea, I think that's a deconstructed hydrangea. I'll stand corrected if the owner can tell me what that is. Oh, look, this is where my imagination just goes wild and, oh, it's lovely. Oh, sorry. I'll go back to that one. That's so it is edible, isn't it? Now that I'm
Yeah.
looking at these things, most of that is, well, not most of it, but quite a bit of that is edible. Maybe a few folks can talk us through. Oh, wow. Um, Gosh, that's like one of these scenes when you look up at the astronomy, like the stars and the galaxy and all that. That's beautiful, and I think that's yep. So I'll just go back and see if there's any more that I can. Oh, here's another couple in. I'll save that, and we can maybe go back to the photos later on, Jenny.
thank you. Does anyone want to start off with any questions? Perhaps you'd like to ask Deborah how she does it in with her groups. Any questions you might want to how it might be adapted for different people? Any questions at all? I noticed, Deborah, that you have a very steady voice and it's a lovely tone. And how do you get yourself? How do you do that? How do you practice that? What do you do?
Don't practice.
Don't practice.
I think years of experience probably, because my natural speaking voice, particularly if I get excited about something, I pick up speed. So I guess I have to be very mindful that I need to speak gently and slowly. And I think when you're reading the script, you do find a natural rhythm. And I think my personal experience of reading this script is that it does calm me as well as I say it. So yeah, maybe that's the trick.
Yes, Fiona has just asked, do you use a script for the guided relaxation? So you've answered that in
Yeah.
your little dialogue there.
Yeah, this was actually this was part of the workshop from the social and therapeutic horticulture for palliative care session, and it was with kind permission from the Royal Marsden, I think Occupational Therapy Department. So that's how that it's got the date on it as 2014 was the original, and I have used it in all sorts of occasions in the work setting, and I usually get comments of, can you record that? Because I'm not, I think I've only had one person that said they didn't, it wasn't for them. It just depends. I think with me, when I do relaxation in general, at the moment with the current service that I'm working with, I'm doing virtual fatigue management groups, and we end each session with relaxation, but we offer different types to give people the experience, because not everybody likes or feels it just doesn't work for them. This would be sort of like a guided imagery, and some people just don't, that's just not for them. So yeah, it's good to have different things in your inventory, so to speak. So some people prefer something like a progressive muscle relaxation. I like the guided imagery, so I suppose I'm naturally kind of go that way.
Shan is asking, are you able to share the script?
As far as I know, yeah, so we can double check, but say it was given to us through the workshop with the group, and I was told that we could share materials, but we can double check just to be sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm intrigued, Deborah, what you said you collected some bits and bobs yourself. What were you attracted to when you were out on your scavenge? Did you upload your photograph?
So where I live, we have a communal garden, so I went into the communal garden, and I'm in Sussex, so quite a lot of things like daffodils are out, hellebores, so that's what I was attracted to. But it's not hugely well stocked, and if you may remember, that's beautiful, that it was suggested that you try and pick things up off the ground rather than cut things. That's like a bouquet, isn't it? Wow. So I did manage to cut one of my prize hellebores, which was quite difficult to cut it off in its prime, just the one flower. But when I looked at it, it really just showed me that whole Mandela's in nature in itself, because you just look at it and it's just a series of circles in the center. So yeah, so that's what I was attracted to, and I was getting real wafts of scent, and I'm not sure if it isn't. I'm not sure if it's this. Yeah, the Mahonia.
Okay.
So it wasn't just sight. I was also attracted to scent as well.
Nat has written, I love the colour guided relaxation, as colours are really helpful to imagine and get the mind focused in them. Are you, Deborah, using other images like places or shapes or natural elements to guide your sessions?
This is the one I tend to use with this particular session, but as I say, in my other work, we've used beach type scripts, and also forest, which goes along with how therapeutic not only green spaces are, but also what we call blue spaces. So whether that's an ocean or a river or a beach, so they can also be very helpful to people. I have tried it with sounds as well. So for the beach, I've tried waves. I think it's trial and error, but I had some people, because of the way that they was experiencing the sound on their device, thought a tidal wave was coming, so wasn't very relaxing because it was just so loud, and I was getting people holding up bits of paper going, can you turn the sound down? So it's certainly worth practicing if you're going to do this with a client group. But I have used that because a lot of what I've been doing in the last 2 years has been virtual.
Great. Joe is wondering, what other types of mindful activities do you find work best for the groups that you support?
I think most activities can be mindful, and this is just it's really about how you pay attention in the moment. So in the past, it's obviously a horticultural group, but for example, you can cook mindfully, and some of you may be in settings where you do cook outside as part of your group. Certainly one of the groups that I've done in the last couple of years was had like a forestry school approach with people with dementia and their carers, and part of the session was always cooking outside. So walking in the woods, gathering the kindling would be one of the first activities on arrival, and all of those things can be done mindfully. It's about just having a heightened awareness of your surroundings and taking time to notice it. So gathering those materials, thinking about what ingredients you're using, and if that's fruits and vegetables. They made, for example, blackberry and apple jam in the autumn. So the apples were brought in because it was in a woodland, but blackberries they could forage from the actual land around them. And then just so it's really more the process. You could turn a lot of activities into mindful activities. It's the way that you do it.
Joe's just adding on that you see that mindful eating session. I think I'm always mindfully eating. But
Joe, maybe Joe could unmute and tell us about that session, please.
Yeah, it was it was one with a sports group, but it was about just being in the moment and focusing, and they could have whatever item of food they wanted, but it was that close your eyes, smell it, how does it feel in your hand, take a tiny crumb, hold it in your mouth. Everything was really, really slow, and I'm like, oh my God, this chocolate is just calling me. But yeah, it was amazing how a lot of people, you eat and you don't take it in, you don't really enjoy the whole process. It's just, yep, that's eaten. So it was painful a little bit to do, but really good to do. Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the first time I was introduced to mindfulness was eating something, and it was done with a chocolate covered raisin, and you had to hold it in your hand, look at it before you even got it to your mouth, and then not suck all the chocolate off and swallow it. It's quite an art.
Lovely. Joanne, perhaps you'd like to unmute and tell us about your experience.
Yep, hi. I'm a forest school leader, so I find that with certain groups, sort of, lighting fires, like you were saying, gathering the wood, all that sort of thing. But it's actually the fact it's a communal activity. Everybody's sitting around the fire and either eating or watching their marshmallows being toasted or burnt or whatever else. I find that, and it sort of calms the group down as well after they've been doing other activities. So sort of like a communal experience, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. And I did think about this, that as I haven't done it, but it would be interesting to do. There's no reason why you can't do a group mandala in that situation. So in the forest, that could be a really nice thing, because it doesn't have to be done on a worktop. It depends on the ability of the people you're working with and whether they can be down that low or get up again. But you could do it as a group mandala. The only group mandala I ever done, I'm going way back, it wasn't using natural materials. It was actually mark making with art materials, so it's a bit different. But there's no reason why you can't do this as a group, and it can really bring the group together. It depends on how you offer it. If you want your group to increase their social skills and communication skills, it can be a really lovely way, because to ask permission, for example, is it okay to lay my whatever you're laying there? And even sometimes that's just eye contact, and somebody just nods. that's another very different way of doing it.
I've done that as a group activity, quite a large group. We did it in the autumn as well, so the leaves were sort of changing colour. We had a lovely estate to walk around and collect stuff in baskets, that sort of thing. So there's about maybe 6 or 7 of us that were creating a massive great mandala on the lawn, you know. So and it just sort of stayed there afterwards. So yeah, great. It's a great activity.
Very much so, yeah. And I was just thinking, you know, if depending on who the client groups you are, if you think of people that are just normally lead really, really busy lives, and just for them to just have that, you know, an hour or whatever, just to do that can make such an amazing difference.
Which reminds me of what you said just before the session started, Deborah. Somebody said something, you know, I'll let you tell that story.
Oh, okay. So we were sort of just getting together before we started the session, I understand that it's been a pretty hectic week for all the staff team that have been putting these seminars together, but also that you had noticed that some people have used the word doing something rather than being, and I shared something that I'd heard a few years ago, which was, it's really simplistic, but it stuck with me, which is, we are not human doings, we're human beings. So just to be rather than to do, even if we can only do that occasionally, can be really therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually doing a little bit of pricking out of seedlings earlier on this morning, and I was conscious of the time because we had another session on this morning. I thought, I can't be late, but you know, it was just so lovely just being, it was just, you know, just me and my little pot of seedlings and doing it, and then the moment passed, but it was lovely. And I'm thinking back to that moment actually just now. I might go and pick out some more later on. Does anybody else have anything they would like to ask of Deborah? Anything that they've done mindfully with their particular client group that they would like to share with the group here today? Please put your hand up in the group's quite small. You can just unmute yourself and shout out if you would like to.
I think it'd be really good as well. I'd love to hear how people, others that haven't already spoken, you know, how you found the process for you personally, because it's just as important to do this for yourself. And sometimes when we are the ones that normally facilitate sessions for others, we don't always facilitate this special kind of times for ourselves. So I'm just interested to hear how that was.
Sharon, Sharon Burney, would you like to unmute yourself? And
hi there. Hi Deborah, that was lovely.
Hi Sharon.
I still feel a bit spaced out after that session, like in a really good way. It was so relaxing, it was lovely. I'm at college just now, and I'm the unit we're doing just now is horticulture therapy. So we've been encouraged to come on to some of the trellis sessions, and with a view to trying out some of the activities on our class in a couple of months. So this is one that I definitely would like to do with the class for a wee practice session. So I'm looking forward to it after seeing that. I was a wee bit nervous about it, but I really enjoyed the process, even just picking up the materials from my wee local park this morning. Also the wee vase of flowers, that's why it looked a wee bit like a bouquet, the wee vase of flowers with the flowers are dying off. So I put them down. So I've loved the process. It's been really nice. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your feedback, Sharon. And yeah, I really wish you well. I think that'll be a great activity for you to try with your fellow students, and it's low cost. You don't have to go out and buy flowers. It's about going out into nature, and it's also a great activity, you know, for when, particularly this time of year, when depending on where you are, as to how warm it is, and it's not always like, oh no, I don't want to go outside. And sometimes we need a purpose to go out for. And if you're going to gather those materials with the understanding that that's what you're doing it for, it's a reason to wrap up, and you don't need to be out there very long to get the materials. So yeah, Good luck.
Thank you.
Sue, would you like to speak, Sue?
Yes, hi, thank you. Yes, no, I love the session. I thought it was brilliant how you've extended ideas into such variation and interest. And they're sort of simple things that I might have used before, but it's just like the way you've used them has just really helped me. I go and do sessions with people who have profoundly affected neurologically in a specialist nursing home, and already I have had quite often what I do, especially with the more profoundly affected, is I take a basket of things with interesting, lovely colours or smells and all the rest of it, and we just sort of handle them and touch them and think about them. But I think this is what I'm thinking is that could so well be extended from that first identification. They're not people who couldn't go out and gather their own, and I think they have to be indoors a lot of the time in the winter because there's just not enough staff to take them out into the garden, and it's a howling wind as well. Even though it's only Herefordshire, it's not even Scotland. But yes, so I can really see how I might use that, and maybe put some. I was thinking I might cut some circles and put some double-sided tape on those, maybe in radiating lines or sort of concentric, I know you can't sort of bend double-sided, but sort of have little patches so that they could actually mount their stuff and have it to look at afterwards. And there's so many ways really. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of it, and the idea of doing meditation. I'm an ex-physiotherapist and I've done meditation with groups, but doing it with colour is brilliant, isn't it? I mean, I've only done it with body relaxation. So yeah, and I think that's a really nice extension too. So thank you, really useful.
You're very welcome. So it's lovely to hear about your work. I think also with the colour, and I'm aware that this potentially is an international audience, somebody did reflect back to me that you might want to tweak it in terms of making it culturally appropriate in terms of some of the descriptions that are used. So you could use the sort of main framework, but then do that.
Oh yeah.
So just to pass that on. And I think, yeah, absolutely. This originally I came across because of working in a palliative care setting. So probably like your patients, they're not necessarily able to go into the garden, but if you can bring in some materials and they can still self-select, that still in that moment helps them to be mindful. And if it's somebody who perhaps doesn't, it could be overwhelmed in terms of sensory experience, you could choose to limit their choices if that made it easier for them.
Yes, no, that's a good idea. I like the way that it's all season as well. I mean, I was really excited that the person who'd done the picture was shown with the dried hydrangea. That's fantastic. So who'd have thought of that? It's brilliant. Yeah.
We had when I did this workshop in October, I think it was, for trellis, I remember one lady, she just used she foraged in her lounge, I think she said, because she had all sorts of natural dried materials, things like shells, driftwood, that kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be fresh materials.
That's really useful because winter activities are harder to find for me in my situation. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did have a question, Deborah. Do you have any book recommendations, mindfulness book recommendations? Jenny has said that we'll share some our information sheet in mindfulness in the follow-up email to this session, but do you have a particular book that you would refer to?
No, I don't have a particular book. I had a book and I looked at that in the last week, and I thought, gosh, it said it was called something like Mindfulness Made Simple or something like that, and I read it and I thought, well, it's not simple to me. I didn't find it, so I didn't carry on with it. I haven't, I'm afraid. I haven't got books. I think somebody said about the mindful colouring, and again, I know you can get those special books, can't you, which But in my current group as a volunteer, we've found that some of the carers have been very happy. I've just taken printed pictures off the internet, free pictures of birds, and you have to be quite careful and make sure that they're age appropriate. But I have had carers will just happily sort of colour those in. They're not necessarily mindfulness, particularly drawings, but as a new group, it gave them a way of sitting together with another carer and perhaps sharing how things were for them, but through activity. So their conversation flowed much better when they was already engaged in another activity, and then their other halves were doing planting in a spring planter, or I can't remember whatever the other activity that was on offer. So for me it doesn't have to be always the mindfulness colouring books, because I find they're quite detailed and they're quite small, and depending on your client group they might struggle with that a bit. So it's still, again, it's about that process, about offering that space where you haven't got all those distractions, you haven't got, people won't experience sensory overload. You don't necessarily want, music playing in the background, which, I've done myself in the past. Oh, that'll be a good idea. And actually it's not. It's just another distraction. It's about really knowing you do need to know your own client group, really.
Yeah, I think you're right what you're saying, Deborah, about the colouring in. It's almost like if it's too detailed, it takes too long. And if it takes too long, the session runs over. And there's something nice about everybody having completed their mandala in that short period of time. It comes to a conclusion and you've got something to reward yourself with. Whereas like the colouring in, you've got to close the book to go and start doing something else. And when you go back to, you're not so fussed about using that shade of green anymore, and the picture's not so attractive. So yeah, knowing your client group's so important, and having the achievable project set for them. Great.
I think also just on the books, for me it can stifle people's own creativity because it's already drawn for them, whereas with what we've done today with the mandalas, it's just a space in which to be, to just let literally nature take its course. There's nobody, you don't sit down beforehand thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It just happens, it's in the moment, and that's where we want to be mindful.
Yeah. And even like I noticed in some of the photographs, I'm going to actually go back, there's another couple of photographs that I've just uploaded. Some people actually dissected the actual flower itself and down to the petals, which that activity, just deconstructing to construct something new, is very therapeutic in itself.
Yeah.
I'll just you can talk amongst yourselves, and I will see if I can find these last few photos. I'll just jump through these. I think we've seen. I want to ask, what's the green? Maybe a few folk have had to leave the session. This looks like spring onions to me around the outside of this picture. I'm quite sure it isn't. So the person who made this one, if you're still here, can you tell me what this green is, please? Maybe not. Jenny, do you want to hazard? Do you think it's a daffodil stem?
Yeah, I think it's like a bit of bulb.
Yeah, it's a stem, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
It's nice anyway. I don't think we need to know what everything is, because it's just lovely just to take it in. Take it in the eye. Just take it in the eyeball.
I think what it does, just to mention, it does raise a point that, again, depending on your client group, we didn't, in your handout in the materials list, it had like sort of snips or something to cut materials with, and obviously you just do need to be to risk assess that, and think about how you're going to present the materials according to your client group. And it goes without saying that also is things that might prick you, might sting you, that you shouldn't eat. Do think about that when you offer it to your client group. I'm sure you already do that, but just to sort of mention it. it's just, I just love the way that they're all so different.
I know, and such a variety of colours. You wouldn't imagine that at this time of year, would you?
No,
And it just brings that out, doesn't it? You think, oh gosh, you know,
it
and
does. Yeah,
makes you want to go look more.
I was looking at I had some crocus in the garden, and actually I thought, oh gosh, the back is much more attractive than the front.
Oh, it is.
So yeah, but I wouldn't have gone out there and thought, oh, let's have a look at the back of this crocus. It's only because I was doing this that I noticed, because I stopped to notice.
Lovely.
Hannah's just made a really nice comment that will be shared later with you, but just saying it's just a wonderful session, and it's great to be doing the meditation just for yourself. If not doing it with a group, it's just lovely to take the time to do it for yourself. So thank you for this lovely creative session, she says.
I think it has it can be a very grounding experience. So if you had a really full-on day in whatever shape or form that is, and this is something that you maybe come home and do just to ground yourself, because sometimes in the settings that we work, supervision isn't always available in the moment, but this is something that you can do for yourself. And it's a great thing to do, like in a team building type situation, and also for staff wellbeing in its own right. And that's been very needed in the last 2 years through the pandemic, particularly for health and social care staff, because they've given so much, and it's just it's less than an hour to do that, and it can make such a difference to people's well-being.
Absolutely. Oh, good. Well, thank you very much.